Live on tape from our studios in Fishers, Indiana, this is Night Talk, a 30-minute unscripted conversation featuring guests from all over central Indiana. With tonight's guest, me, voice actor and Night Talk announcer Jay Dowell, and the moderator of Night Talk, Jacob Pyle.
That was great. Good evening, everybody. I am Jacob Pyle. Welcome, everybody, to Night Talk. The guests that are with me already know this, but just for the sake of the viewers at home who are watching the show for the first time, for the next 30 minutes, unscripted conversations, but with a difference. No shouting, no cussing, nothing but respectful conversations on the show. All topics that we are discussing on the show have been approved by me before the show taping. By the time the viewers are watching this, they would have already seen my conversation with Luke Austin Doherty last week. If you watched his episode last week, as well as the intro to this week's show, you will clearly notice that that was not Paul Poteet who read off the intro. And like I told you before taping, in addition to Paul Poteet being a great broadcaster, a great weatherman, a great radio DJ, and having a great voice, Paul is also a very busy man. So as of today, I had to make the very hard decision of letting him go as the announcer of Night Talk. But I would like to say to Paul, if he's watching tonight, that we will miss you around here. And I thank you for helping us out these first few episodes. You were great. Now, with that being said, this show can't go on without an announcer, so we of course need someone else to fill his spot. And that's where today's guest comes into play. I came across this man's website one day. Turns out he's local to the Fishers, Indiana area, and his voice can be heard in many concert venues and commercials across the United States. My guest for tonight is not really a guest at all, but as of a couple weeks from tonight, he's going to be our new permanent announcer on Night Talk. Please welcome voice actor Jay Dowell to Night Talk. Jay, welcome to our family.
Well, thank you, Jacob. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. We're going to talk more about your role on Night Talk towards the end of the show, but I want this conversation tonight to be more of a chance for our viewers at home to get to know you as a person. Like I mentioned, you are a voice actor. What got you interested as a voice actor?
Well, honestly, as a kid, I watched a lot of TV. Was always big into cartoons and just always kind of played around with the voices, and so it's always been something that I've done, off and on, and I had the opportunity to work for a company that allowed me to become a voice actor. So that's where I've been for the last 23 years, and like I told you earlier, 20 years of producing and voicing radio and TV commercials for major label touring artists, or as everybody else knows them, concert spots. So it's been a great gig, and it's allowed me to kind of stretch my legs a little bit as a voice actor, and it got me interested in wanting to, kind of branch out a little bit. So that's where my freelance business came in, and, launched a website and had demos produced, and, now we're just kind of rolling and see where it goes.
Okay, cool. So, when you're doing voice acting, what's the biggest do you do straight voice acting, or have you done like any? What are your favorite? I guess what I'm asking is, what are your favorite voice acting jobs you've done in the past?
Well,
I mean, you don't have to say anything that you're not allowed to say.
No, that's okay. Really, the nice thing about my day job is that we produce radio and TV spots for all different kinds of artists, so every different genre of music. So I've done radio spots for everything from theatrical stuff to pop music to urban to heavy metal, and actually, honestly, the heavy metal spots are kind of some of my favorite. It gives me the opportunity to I have a fairly deep and gravelly voice, so it lets me do that and kind of growl a little bit, and it becomes kind of fun. So I like that. I actually did I did the voice of a dog in a product video that was on YouTube, and that was actually kind of fun. I had a couple different characters, so I did a couple different voices. So that was fun. My dream would be to either do movie trailers. Movie trailers are it's always something that has caught my attention. back when Don LaFontaine, who was basically the godfather of movie trailer voiceover, I always paid attention to those when they were on TV. You know, I mean, that voice just always grabbed me. You know, so I would love to do movie trailers. I'd love to do any kind of cartoon stuff. You know, like I have 4 kids, so you know, I've grown up with bringing them up and watching them grow up. We've watched a lot of cartoons. You know, and as I told you before, I grew up watching cartoons. I mean, I was a cartoon freak when I was a kid. I just loved them. You know, all the different voices and everything. The voicing of it has always captured my attention. So
yeah. I would say Don LaFontaine. I love Don LaFontaine's voice. He has for those of you who don't know who Don LaFontaine is, like I'm talking about the like 80s, 90s, I think some 70s movie trailers. There was a sky with a big.
He was in a world. Yeah, that guy. Yeah. So he was the godfather of it, man. And I mean, you know, unfortunately we lost him a few years ago, but he made many contributions to the voiceover, you know, industry, and there was a studio out there now that's used for education that's got Don's name on it, I believe, and he was. I actually know a guy that knew him and said he was just a really great guy. So you know, I mean, that just on top of it makes it that much more great.
Yeah, Mark. I would say another guy that I grew up with, especially with Disney movies, would be Mark Elliott. He had of course. Again, most people probably don't know who he is, but Mark Elliott was he would come on and say, and now this movie from Disney Pictures or something like that.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, the in-between guy, yeah.
Yeah. So as you can probably tell, I'm kind of I'll tell you my backstory. I wanted so badly to be an announcer, you know, but I ended up being an on-camera host, which worked out great as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
But so far you've heard me, you know, pretty much. I mean, what kind of advice would you give me?
Well, the first thing really, I went uncoached for a long time. Like, I basically just taught myself. You know, the company that I work for, I started out strictly as a producer, and so I really, the more that I did that, the more it kind of, you know, I came to the realization that I really wanted to be a voice talent. So I started doing scratch tracks. So I would scratch. The way that my production goes is we produce demos, and so I have to write a script and put together a music bed, which ends up being what is played on the radio. So as I'm going through and doing that, I would write the script, and then I would just voice it myself. You know, they would give me projects that were utilizing other voice talents. And so I was like, well, I'm going to do one with my voice too, just to, you know, put it in the mix and see if anything ever gets chosen. So it took me a little while, but I finally, you know, got a tour under my belt, and then, you know, another one and another one. And the hardest thing about it right now is that voiceover is incredibly popular. The pandemic really, I think, kind of shone the light on the fact that it's pretty easy to do voiceover. You know, I mean, if you can get a computer and a pretty decent microphone, you know, you spend $500 and you really have the ability to become a voice actor. So, you know, that the competition really ramped up. So that's the issue with now, is that it's, you know, it's really hard to get a job, you know. So the best attitude that you can have, and what I'm trying to tell myself, is that it's a marathon and not a sprint. You know, I mean, I've already been doing this through my day job for 23 years, you know, and so I obviously I'm kind of in it for the long haul. So I'm just going to kind of keep plugging away, and hopefully things will, you know, start happening if you get a client under your belt, and then hopefully somebody hears that and they need a commercial or need a spot or need a voice in some way, you know. I mean, I'm even happy to do people's voicemails. You know? I've actually done that before. That was one of my first freelance jobs. Was I recorded the voicemails for a company downtown. So
awesome. Yeah, I'll tell you, I remember. I'll tell you what happened with my PIA with my company. So I got a message one day from a company. I'm not going to mention the company, but. They do parties and things like that, and they wanted me to produce a commercial and voice a commercial for this company, and so. Oh, hang on. I will share. That sound means that we have to take a commercial break. I will finish my story when we come back with more Night Talk. Stay with us. Welcome back to Night Talk. I am here with our voice actor and Night Talk and our new Night Talk announcer, Jay Dowell. So I was telling the story when we had to cut away for the break. What we used to do commercials for parties, and I was trying to when I did this project one time, I was trying to find the right voice for the project because it was aiming more towards kids and their families and things like that. So pretty much because I knew that my tone of voice that I'm speaking to you right now, to all of you right now, would not work. Because people would probably watch that and think, man, that's a boring commercial. And I'll be on, and so I kind of had to get people interested. This is the way I would always talk. This is like that. And I've also my very first voice acting job I ever did was as a narrator for Beauty and the Beast. Yeah, I was talking to Steve voice and like that. So, so pretty much I get most of the stuff that you're saying right now, I pretty much understand,
Yeah.
because, I'm doing all this, I'm doing all this voiceover, now, I'm busy with, like I said, because pretty much the thing is, the reason why I wanted to become an on-camera host was because, I mostly wanted to be a producer, and I thought, well, nobody's going to want to host a project of mine since I'm brand new. So I thought, well, I'll just host my own shows.
Got to use what you got, right?
Right. And you got to use all your resources that you have, and then eventually I got bigger and I got better. So.
Well, that's the thing about it. Probably the most difficult part for me, whenever it comes to a role, because I've done lots of auditions and stuff, is that I second guess myself on what read I'm going to use or what voice you're going to use, and it's not necessarily reading the script or trying to convey the idea properly. It's just you really stress out about how you're going to read something. I mean, I think that's just kind of every voice actor deals with that. Any audition that I've done it, and then 2 hours later, I'm like, well, I really should have done it this way, or I should have done it this way, or, you're second guessing yourself is natural, but you just kind of have to trust your gut. I kind of go off a feel. I try to get a feel for the script. Like I said, I've watched lots of TV over the years, and so I feel like I've seen a million commercials, so you have, commercials have a sort of cadence, the way that things are read, the speed at which things come out. And, you just try to get a feel for the copy, whatever it is, and try to, you have to, the hard part is you have to really try to be a mind reader as to what your client is looking for. That's the toughest part for me. I'm like, this is how I would like it, but I'm not sure this is how my client's going to like it, or the ad agency or whoever is listening to your voiceover to try to put on these commercials or whatever whatever the project is. So it's tough. I mean, that to me is probably the most difficult aspect of voicing.
Yeah, I was like, I when you were talking about cartoons, I was telling my dad when I was wanting to become a broadcaster or an announcer, whichever the case may be. I used to. My dad loved listening to Q95. Mm-hmm. My dad is an avid Q95 fan. And so there was this voice that would come on at the top of the hour and say, WFBQ, Indianapolis, Q95. And he sounded a lot. And I could easily imitate him because he's that good of an announcer. Now, someone another person like Don Pardo, Saturday Night Live, I can't do that. I can't do Don Pardo because he has I'd say, if you have not heard Don Pardo's voice, just play a Saturday Night Live intro clip and listen to him because he has that particular voice that nobody else can imitate. I don't think.
Yeah, absolutely. He's one of a kind.
Yeah. So now let's talk more about now when you're not doing voiceover acting. What do you like to do in your spare time? What do you love doing during your spare time?
Well, as I mentioned to you earlier, I have 4 kids, 4 boys. I have quite the age range. My oldest is 19, Jake. Mason is 16, Hayden is 13, and I have a 6-year-old named Bodie. So my free time is usually spent driving someone somewhere most of the time to sports practice or wherever it might be. Um, I have been a guitar player the majority of my life. I started playing guitar when I was 11. Still playing. I had a blues band a few years ago. Well, a few years ago is really a dozen years ago. But we played down at the Slippery Noodle a few times. And I, love music. Actually, that's one of the reasons that my day job is such a good deal is because it's affiliated with the music industry. I don't want to say I'm part of the music industry, but we do a lot of work directly with, artists and managers and agents. And so, I've always said if I could be a touring guitar player, I guess, working with the music industry kind of allows me to exercise that, that part of me. So I do that. Love to play golf. Don't have any time to play golf anymore with, like I said, with the 4 kids, it's tough to get out on the golf course, but, been married to my wife, Amy, for 22 years next month. So, that's really about it. We're concentrating on trying to put out 4 good little humans into the world, So I just took my oldest dropped him off at Purdue on this past Monday for his freshman year at Purdue.
Nice.
So yes, it absolutely does. It's like I said, he's 19, and it doesn't really seem all that long ago that he was little, or all of the other ones were little as well. So
that's what my dad tells me all the time. It's like, man, you've grown, or people will tell me like, I remember one time a friend of mine that I had not seen in a while. Because I was just so used to her being a little, being little, and then like 10 years later, I see her and like, wow, you have changed. Yeah,
it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the sayings that I like to cling to is that the minutes are slow, but the years are fast, and that's very true.
That is indeed true.
You feel like of course I'm not getting any younger, but I still mentally I still feel like a fairly young guy. Physically not so much every once in a while, but mentally I still feel like like I'm in my early 20s. But I turn 50 next month, so I am far from my early 20s.
Oh yeah. So what are your I guess we still got about a minute and 57 seconds left in the segment. So what do you what are your favorite aspects of your job as a voice actor?
Honestly, I get to see a lot of live music. Like I said, as a musician and music being, a huge part of my life, I love going to see bands, and the company that I work for, I've been there a long time, and over those years, I've gotten the opportunity to see a lot of live concerts and, a lot of live events. And that's a pretty big perk, for a music lover, the ability to, to go out and see a show if you want to go see a show. It's pretty nice. And concert tickets are a little expensive these days, so it's a good perk. I like that a lot, and again, just being able to, be around the music industry and be exposed to that. And, I just went down a couple weeks ago and saw Sublime with Rome and Slightly Stupid at TCU Amphitheater. And, we went backstage, and so I got to see a lot of the load in and load out of the bands, and you don't really get to see that very much. You just get to see what goes on stage. And it's a huge undertaking to, to get to put on a live show and to, for those guys that do it night after night after night, touring, going from one city to another to another to another, it's an incredibly daunting task. So, you have to have a lot of respect for that.
Sounds good. All right, we're going to take another break right now. When we come back, I will have a preview of next week's show, and we will conclude our conversation with Jay Dowell. Stay with us. Welcome back to Night Talk. I'm talking with our brand new permanent announcer of Night Talk, Jay Dowell. Now, before we conclude our discussion, we actually will not have a guest for Night Talk next week. Instead, because of it being Labor Day weekend, I decided, because of your responses and your reactions, we are going to re-show my conversation with Horner Automation Group Manager Chuck Ridgway. And I hope to see you guys next week for that. So I promised you that we would talk more about your role of Night Talk towards the end of the show. This is it. I should point out that because when Paul Poteet was the announcer, I want to make sure this was clear. He always would pre-record his announcements on the show. Like he wouldn't be in the studio. Beginning when we tape our next episode that's all going to change, because on days when you're available, we're going to actually have the announcer in the studio with us when we do the shows. What you said earlier too, that the best benefit of being an announcer is you actually get to see whatever it is for free. How do you feel about actually having an announcer in the studio as we're actually taping it?
It's kind of nice. It's not really something that I had foreseen, would happen, but it's actually kind of nice. It's that, we've recorded a few things tonight, and it's worked out really well.
Yeah, actually, I was gonna play a clip of you recording Luke Austin Doherty's intro, but we're not gonna do that because I don't actually have to. Because actually right now I'm using the computer's webcam to actually record the rest of this episode, because my camcorder's battery died, and so now we're trying. So unfortunately, we're not able to. I won't be able to pull up that video, but I'll show it. But we'll show that next week or the next time we get together with another guest. I promise you, I will show you that video. I promise. So anyway, but yeah, I mean, now you said that you have not seen any episodes besides other than the intro that you said.
That's right. Yeah.
I think from between the intro you saw and what we did today or tonight, what do you think of the show?
I think it's great. I love what you're doing. I'm an Indiana boy, born and bred. I've lived here almost my entire life, minus a couple years in Florida. So I love to support anything that's, about Indiana. And I love that you have guests from Central Indiana. It's not like I saw myself being interviewed on the show, but it's been a really fun experience. So I really like what you're doing.
Thank you.
And I'm glad to be a part of it.
Thank you. And the thing is, I get I was up here. Well, the area that we actually taped the show in is Launch Fishers in Fishers, Indiana, and I was up here yesterday, and I was trying to get guests booked for next month, and I had and out of all the guests that I messaged inviting them to be on the show, only one person responded, and it was actually I got one that's not even from Indiana. It's from California, and I'm like, no, sorry, no, because the funny thing was, we tried having guests from all over the United States at one point, but it was getting to the point where it was getting difficult to handle, and we would always have to do those interviews remotely, because that's really the only way we could do it. Yeah, so I think this is going to be. We've been on now. By the time this episode airs, we actually taped this a couple weeks ago, but by the time this episode airs, it'll be 1 month. It'll be close to 1 month since we've been on. And
Congratulations.
thank you.
Yeah.
And it's been fun. I got to, the nice thing about the show, like as you mentioned, every show, it's like it's an unscripted conversation. I'm meeting you for the first time as we're taping this, as the viewers see this, and as well as most of the guests that we have on the show.
Yeah.
So, and my goal is hopefully with the show to get, to get a multitude of voices, on the show each week. That's why we have a different guest in the chair each week because, like if we had one, obviously, of course, we can't just have one guest every week because everybody's busy. But it would be fun to have like the conversation I did with Tina Baxter a couple weeks ago comes to mind because Tina was an amazing guest. She had, she was talking about her. What in the heck is that noise? It's live on tape, ladies and gentlemen. You never know what's going to happen. But anyway, she was talking about health benefits and things like that. And that was actually my first remote interview. I always tell people I really don't want to do remote anything other than for your part on the show because I know that some weeks you can't be here, because I want the viewers to actually see and hear the person as they're talking as we're doing this, and that was pretty much my goal with the show. It's like why don't we just focus on getting people from Indiana or driving through Indiana or whatever, have them on the show, and just devote a half an hour to them. And who knows what could happen from a guest. I actually made a new friend, Lugas Darty, who was on a week ago. He likes my show so much that we became friends since then. So yeah,
It's nice, man. Build relationships from it.
Yeah. Has there been any other projects of yours that you felt that, other collaborators, was able to make friends with you?
Actually, not. That's one of the things that kind of stinks about my day job is that I'm remote, so I work from a home studio. I have a studio in my basement.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't get to meet people face to face very much, but I have, I've talked to a couple celebrities, I guess, if you want to refer to it that way. A couple of the artists that I've done some work for, that's one of the things about being remote is if they want to talk to you about something, they just, here's my phone number, whoever our contact is at work, here's Jay's phone number, go ahead and give him a call. So I've talked to Tom Kiefer, the lead singer of Cinderella. I don't know if you're familiar with Cinderella. They're an 80s hair metal band.
Oh, no. The metal band. I've heard the play, but not the metal band.
Yeah. So, Cinderella. Tom Kiefer was the lead singer of that band back in the 80s, and he's now touring again, releasing some new material. So I've been working on produced and voiced Tom spots for several years now. And when we first got started, he's very particular about the way that he wants things done, which is good, and I'm happy to oblige. So, Tom called me up and we had a nice conversation a couple times. And then probably the biggest person that I've ever talked to, I spoke with Donny Osmond not too long ago.
Oh, well, I love Donny. I love Donny and Marie. They're really good.
Donny was incredibly nice. I mean, it's exactly what you would think Donny Osmond would be like. That's how he was on the phone. We had a fairly short conversation, 5 minutes or so, but he was incredibly gracious. We were talking about some audio that he wanted done. And so, he even asked a little about my backstory, so he was just a really great guy, couldn't say anything more about how nice he was. He was just incredibly great.
Yeah, that's the great thing about what I do. I was going to mention this too before when you were talking about, how you could see the performances live for free as an announcer. When I did Beauty and the Beast, I actually got to see the whole performance myself as an audience member for free.
Yeah.
Because really all I was doing announcing. The only thing they needed me for, unfortunately, was for the curtain call at the end of the show. So I didn't really get to see the whole thing, but I got to meet the actors. I got to get pictures taken with them. Yeah. It was an amazing time, and I really enjoyed that. Okay, we are as I always say around here, our conversation, we could go on talking forever if we wanted to, but
Absolutely.
time permits otherwise. So so we have a little bit of a tradition that we do. I don't know if you brought a pen with you or not, but I don't have.
I don't have a pen.
You don't have a pen? Okay. Well, well, I will. I'll find a pen in the front or something like that, and then I'll let you sign this. But before you leave, but this is my little autograph book, and normally what we would do is we would as the credits roll, we would have you sign the autograph book. You know, but listen, like I said at the beginning of the show, welcome to the family, and it was good to have you.
Thank you again for having me. Appreciate it.
No problem. And I will be back next week with another guest for you. Till then, for our new announcer, Jay Dowell, I'm Jacob Pyle. Thank you for watching, and until I see you again next time, and until then, thank you for watching, and good night, everybody.
If you want to be a guest on Night Talk, or if you would like a DVD copy of tonight's program, send Jacob an email. His email address is jtpile1@aol.com. Or if you're ordering a DVD copy of the program, send $10 check or money order to Night Talk, care of Pile Media Ventures, Post Office Box 154, Noblesville, Indiana, 46061. Please include the air date seen on your screen when ordering. Residents outside of Indiana at $5 shipping and handling. This is Jay Dowell speaking for Night Talk, a Pile Media Ventures presentation. This program was pre-recorded.